What's going guys, Zennosh here, and today in this video of Exos Heroes, I'm presenting to you guys this review on an amazing hero unit known as Baraka. Now let's get this started. One of the really amazing husband for so many players out there, isn't he? We're gonna discuss about his basic details and then his basic stats, review his skills, and I'm gonna give some of my personal insights regarding this hero, like how good is he and what are the things that makes him really special. So right away at first, we can see that he's a machine element type of hero unit. Definitely he's going to gain mana whenever the HP is about like 80% or more when his turn comes. And he's a chaotic type unit. That means he's actually going to sacrifice a lot of stats for higher attack and critical hit and plus the attack speed. All right. And he's a physical type of unit. That means definitely he's going to be useful against the opponents who are pretty much immune to the magical damages. All right, there we go. So now let's look into his stats right over here. His HP is 3,414. That is pretty squishy compared to another physical unit. Like let's say for example, Rudley has 4,447 HP stats, right? And the attack of the Rudley is 1,155, whereas Baraka is 1,226. Well, definitely Baraka has more attack stats. That is definitely going to be helpful to Baraka on dealing more damage to the opponents with same type of damage modifier. And finally, when it comes to defense, wow, compared to another physical unit like Rudley, 962 points, Baraka having just 527 defense points, he is too squishy. So looking into this kind of stat, guys, you can pretty much get rid of Baraka ASAP without any problem at all. If he actually doesn't go first, then there is a really big like chance that he might actually get knocked out really fast. All right, so there we go. Baraka is really meant to go first and try to knock out the opponent ASAP. There we go, guys. All right, critical hit is 120 points, which I think is much better than compared to Rodley right over there, which is only like 20 points. So that is good for Baraka. Thanks to the Fate Core Annie, he can actually triple his critical hit rate, and that's going to be really, really helpful. Thanks to that Burning Soul effect, and with Fate Core Rachel, he can actually pretty much deal some more amazing damage to the opponents, and pretty much like steal the mana as well. Okay, so there we go. And his attack speed is going to be 114 points. That will really allow him to pretty much go first compared to opponents most of the time, unless the opponent has like units like Jin, who has 115 speed, or Rera, who has 115 speed plus a really good passive speed boost up as well. So there we go. Unless you are not going to face against Rera and Jin, Baraka usually goes first, and he can pretty much knocks the light off of a certain opponent. Yes, unless they block the attack or they are pretty much under the tranquil effect. Okay, in that case that can be a bit problem, but still Baraka has a very good passive skill that pretty much can counter the tranquil effect because of the last final strike right over there. But sometimes it might not be really that enough as well. So yeah, that can be quite problem right over there, guys. But anyways, having attack speed of 114 is definitely going to be quite helpful for him to be able to get his next turn right away. So there we go, guys. And now let's look into his skills. Let's try to review his skills, guys. All right, let's get it on. Okay, so right over here, let's start with the passive skill. Final hit, it says, wow, it's so plain and blunt. Just look at that, wow. Attacks if an enemy takes damage and its health drops to 10% or less. Yes, if the HP of the opponent is at 10% or less, it's definitely going to strike the opponent. And that's why he's actually going to be quite effective against the Tranquil Mark effect as well, unless a heal comes by, okay? Because like in that case, he can pretty much, like just wrap up that tranquil effect right away, because the opponents are pretty much going to hook up with that 5% or 10% of their max HP, right? And Baraka is definitely going to come up with the additional strike to seal the deal. And if he actually manages to land a final hit, that means he can pretty much gain mana, 1 mana right over there. So that is quite conditional, not really that super effective though. It can be quite alright, like okay. When it is actually paired up with his nuke king damage, I think it can be quite helpful right over there as well. So first skill, or let's say first active skill is known as Assassin Art. It says required mana 2 mana. Okay, that can be quite easy to obtain, and it's an active skill. Single target attack deals 225% damage to one enemy. Okay, that can be quite good. Actually, that's cool for 2 mana. 225% damage, not bad. Special turn resets if target dies. Oh wow, that's really good, isn't it? Meaning like if he has a really good excess amount of mana and he can pretty much keep on dealing a lot of damage to the opponents, then upon killing the opponent, he just keeps on getting extra turn over and over and over again. So just try to keep on building a lot of attack stats on him, and he's definitely going to kill the opponent with a very flashing strike just like that, guys. And it's definitely going to look really cool, isn't it? And there's a plunder effect right over there when Fateco Rachel is around. Or let's say if Rachel is around, steals 1 mana from target and grants 2 mana to a back row ally if the target is disheartened. And this is definitely going to be quite helpful, especially for the PvP contents, because pretty much the chaotic and the offensive type units are, you know, confined to the back row. And in that case, if you pretty much can provide a very good resource of mana regeneration for your back row allies, you're going to pretty much improve your DPS capacity. So that is going to be really cool, especially if you are really trying to build up a burst damage. Like let's say Fateco Rachel, right? He can pretty much do the burst damage with his second active skill, like Fate Core Battery. She also can do a lot of burst damage with her second skill, or maybe Fate Core Jeon. It's really up to you guys, and having that 2 mana extra is definitely going to be handy, guys. Especially if the target is disheartened. And if you are asking me who is the hero that is going to apply that disheartened effect on the opponents, it's definitely going to be Raquel or Rachel, whatever that is, okay? Rachel or Fateco Rachel, Raquel or Fateco Raquel, or whatever you want. Potato, potato, okay? Now let's look into the next skill. That's going to be the Madsman Flurry. It only requires 3 mana and it will deal 525% damage to one enemy. Now that is going to seal the deal of a certain opponent. Yes, that's going to actually deal amazing amount of damage to the opponents, and most of the time I am pretty much able to knock out the opponent with this skill, unless the opponent is pretty good at blocking the damage, the first condition. And the next thing, he can pretty dodge, or pretty much saved up by the Tranquil Mark effect. But if someone is saved by the Tranquil Mark effect, he can pretty much follow up with the final hit 3 to seal the deal. So there we go, guys. And he has also the Plunder effect on his second skill as well, which says steal 1 mana from the target and grants 2 mana to a back row ally if target is disheartened. And that can be quite helpful, especially to stack up on mana really fast, especially for the burst damages. Now the main problem or the main disadvantage that the Baraka really has here right now is that he lacks a burst damage. Yes, a burst damage is that type of damage that pretty much consumes extra mana that you have on your stash to pretty much scale up your damage. Like let's say if this second skill was a burst damage, that means if he had like 5 mana, he would have actually used that excess 2 mana as well, or let's say a total of 5 mana to improve his damage. It would have been like about 600% damage instead of just 525% damage. So there we go, that's the burst damage. And burst damage is very helpful to one shot those first guardian units, especially if they start to stack up on a lot of dragon barriers or dragon shields, okay? And that can be really problematic. But with the help of the burst damage, that could have been much better. Like let's say Radre has like burst damage on his second skill, right? And Raquel, he also has burst damage on his second skill, but Baraka, he doesn't have. So that is one really severe disadvantage right over here, meaning like if you cannot take care of the opponent with that 525% of damage to a target, then pretty much it's going to be quite useless, okay? So you would definitely not want to see those kind of things happening. All right, that's what I really have to tell to you guys. And if you're pretty much asking me, what is the sort of Guardian Stone element should you really bestow on your Baraka? I would definitely say try to go with either Machine element or the Dark element. darkness element type of guardian stone, because the machine type of element of guardian stone is definitely going to allow him to be quite immune to the status effect, which is pretty much a very big problem, especially when you are trying to nuke a certain opponent and they pretty much are saved by the block or maybe the tranquil effect, and there might be some defensive unit like, let's say, Fate Core Ulum, who is going to like retaliate with a provoke, and that can be quite really problematic, because like after that one, pretty much Baraka is limited to the Fate Core Ulum rather than nuking the squishy offensive units on the back row. So that can be quite problematic right over there. But with the status immunity effect, he can pretty much keep on focusing on the squishy units out there so that he can take care of them right away. And that can be quite helpful, guys. Really, really, really helpful. Or you can go with the darkness element type of guardian stone sets. If you actually do that, what's going to happen is that he's actually going to do the lifesteal up to 30% from the opponent, and that is going to keep his health to a really good level all the time. As I told you guys a little while ago, his defense stats and his health stats are very squishy, and if you actually like if he starts to struggle on his HP pool, he might be in a very disadvantageous side, and having a certain way to pretty much keep on stacking up on his health is definitely going to be quite helpful, which is possible thanks to the darkness guardian stone effect. All right, it is going to allow him to do the lifesteal of up to 30% of the damage dealt, and that's going to be quite helpful right over there. So either the machine or the darkness element guardian stone set. Okay, so that is pretty much it. If you're asking me like how much should I really rate him for the PvP contents, I would say like he is definitely about 8 to 8.5, because he doesn't have a burst damage first of all, and there is another really good hero right out there known as Rudley, who can pretty much do damage of up to 750% damage with 4 mana requirement, and that's a burst damage on top of that one. So compared to that one, it's really, 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 really low damage right over here, guys, in my opinion, and not really that impressive, because he really does lack a burst damage. And the next thing is that uh you know like it's going to be quite hard to start building mana on him, because usually in the game it's the nature type of heroes that pretty much builds up on mana really, really fast, especially when it comes to PvP contents. As a machine element hero, he might have a little bit hard time to actually build up on mana, and that's why being able to pair him up with Fate Core Annie is going to be quite helpful to him, because he is always going to be bestowed with 3 mana right off the bat whenever he's supposed to start, and he really does rely upon the Raquel to be 100% potential. To channel his 100% potential and start to keep on stealing the mana from the opponent, which can pretty much also put the opponent at disadvantage, because in this game mana is pretty much the winning deal. Okay, it actually can really separate the thin line between the victory and the defeat. Okay, so in that case, that's going to be really quite helpful right over there, guys. And being a very speedy unit, that's really good. As a con, for a really good gain in speed, he has really made a compromise with his defense stats. Nearly half of the defense from the other physical units have been sacrificed. Okay, so that is not really good, and having a very squishy stat with the HP and the defense stat is definitely going to make him very, very squishy, and that can actually cost a disaster on him. So if you have a Baraka in the opponent's side, you can pretty much take care of him right away by with just a single nuking strike. So that is the thing right over there if you really want to counter the Baraka. Okay, so that is pretty much it in my opinion, guys. Whereas for the PvE contents, let's say like the story mode and other contents, I would definitely give him about like 7/10, because he definitely lacks an AoE damage, and pretty much like it's going to be quite hard to build up mana with him, and that's also what I can really see. And guess what, guys, it's very squishy as well on top of that one, so you cannot really depend on him really nicely for a lot of survivability and a lot of durable matches. Okay, so 7 or 7.5/10 would be the best score that I can give to him. So that's the Baraka for you guys. For PvP contents, maybe about 8.5 or 8. Okay, so there we go, because it does severely lack the burst damage. That's what I really have to say to you guys. Definitely it's not going to be really useful, especially for the dragon contents, the holy dragon grants, because it doesn't have that effect that he can actually enjoy in order to deal 250% more damage to the dragon, or reduce the damage that is coming from the dragon breath. Okay, so there we go. And looking into this passive skill effect, oh my god, just look at it, how blunt it is. It's like so bland. Nothing is there, guys. So that is actually pretty bad right over there. But anyways, for a beginner to be able to single target nuke the opponent is definitely going to be helpful. And if you can really pair him up with Fate Core Raquel or Fate Core Annie, that's going to be definitely hell yeah awesome. Okay, so yeah, just to consider those kind of things. And this is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to keep on enjoying the contents of my channel. See you guys in the next video.